Chicago Bears season concludes this Sunday in Green Bay, marking the end of a challenging year. As the offseason looms, one pressing question echoes amongst fans and media alike. Does Ryan Poles earn the right to continue leading the Bears' rebuild? And more importantly for me, how well has he stuck to the ambitious plan he laid out 3 seasons ago? Today, we're going to take a look at that very topic. I hope you all enjoyed your holiday, and welcome to the Bear Review. Before critiquing someone's performance, it's crucial we understand their philosophy. Ryan Poles outlined his vision for restoring the Bears to prominence very early on in his career. Here's what he had to say. What am I about and what's my philosophy? We're going to build through the draft. We're going to acquire young, fast, and physical football players. We're going to be selective in free agency and connect evaluation with valuation. We're going to have a relentless approach to fixing our weaknesses. We're going to maintain great self-awareness of who we are. We're going to solve problems with open communication and candor, and we're going to constantly put players in position to succeed. And the last thing, the most important piece, is we're going to take the North and never give it back. The bold declaration, taking the North and never giving it back, has sparked plenty of debate. That's why I wanted to provide you with the full context of his statement, so you can form your own opinion. We'll circle back on that later. But first, let's assess how Poles has executed his plan. Poles' manifesto centered around building through the draft, acquiring young talent, making selective free agent moves, and relentlessly addressing the team's weaknesses. Let's break these points down. Poles has leaned heavily on the draft to shape his roster, with names like Darnell Wright, Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, and Kyler Gordon standing out. But here's where the cracks start to show. Draft success isn't just about first or second round hits. It's about unearthing gems in the pivotal third and fourth rounds. And in that regard, Poles has largely missed the mark. Bayless Jones Jr. was cut. Zach Pickens and Tyler Scott have been non-factors, and pick Roshan Johnson has unfortunately been battling his own health issues over the past 2 seasons. But even on the field, he hasn't lived up to the billing that Poles sold us on when we drafted him. While some prospects, such as Torrey Taylor and Karan Amagaji, could still develop, we must evaluate based on what we've seen, not hypothetical potential. In free agency, Ryan Poles has had a mixed record. Signings of Andrew Billings and TJ Edwards were excellent, but high-profile acquisitions like Tremaine Edmonds haven't met expectations, and Nate Davis was an outright disaster. The rest of the additions have been cheap short-term fixes and stopgaps like Dante Pettis, Byron Pringle, Coleman Shelton, and Rasheem Green. Players who on more established teams might have a role carved out for them, but they failed to make any meaningful impact on the rebuilding Chicago Bears. Adequately addressing the weakness of the team is where Poles truly falters. Despite acknowledging that there is a weakness, his approach has often been inconsistent and underwhelming. Dealing with the offensive line has really been his biggest mistake in that department. The line itself has been a glaring issue for years and remains a problem still to this day. Both Justin Fields and Caleb Williams have suffered due to inadequate protection. In the 2 seasons Justin Fields was with the Chicago Bears, he was sacked 99 times. Caleb Williams at this point has been sacked 67 times. Could actually break the NFL record. The line currently ranks in the bottom of the entire NFL in terms of pressures allowed. In fact, they're actually second worst overall with 249. The only other team worse than them are the Cleveland Browns. Poles' decision to rely on bargain bin players like Dan Feeney, Ryan Bates, and Lucas Patrick has backfired spectacularly. The simple fact that makes this even worse is that Ryan Poles himself is a former offensive lineman. One would think, given that fact, Poles would be able to see the issues on the line a little more clearly than a person who doesn't have his experience. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. And ask yourself the question, if he can't handle that, what makes you think he can handle building the rest of the team? Ryan Poles has always been one to put on a good face and talk a good game. Ultimately, though, talk is cheap, and it's results that matter. And under Ryan Poles, the results have been nothing short of disappointing on the field. On the screen, you're going to see a list of every GM and de facto GM of the Chicago Bears, dating all the way back to George Halas into the 1920s. I went ahead and ranked them by their win percentage, or in Ryan Poles' case, his current win percentage. In 3 seasons with the Chicago Bears, Poles has overseen the 2 longest losing streaks in Bears history, at 14 games and 10 games currently. He also holds the worst winning percentage of any GM in team history at 14 and 36. For perspective, our division rivals, the Lions and the Vikings, each have 14 wins in this season alone. And if the Bears do happen to lose in Green Bay this Sunday, one of them will actually have more. What you have to understand is not just the losing record, guys. Losing is tough, but if you play your heart out and still lose, it's okay. You can live to fight another day. It's the lack of positive progression in terms of the team that is really what's damning to me for Ryan Poles. And like I said, if you lose and at least try, I can make a case for keeping you. But unfortunately for the Bears over these past 3 years, they have found more and more creative ways to lose games they should have won. Now, I know someone's going to bring up in the comments that it's just a coaching problem. True, you're right. Coaches are involved in that, and they do have the burden of responsibility. But so does Ryan Poles. He's the general manager of this team. He brought the coaches in. He hired Matt Eberflus. Eberflus. He drafted these players. He brought in these free agents. Signed those contracts. Good or bad, right or wrong, like it or not, the faults of the Chicago Bears fall on his head. Even more troubling is the lack of identity. Polls claimed the Bears would maintain a great self-awareness of who we are, but 3 years in, the team remains directionless. For a franchise with such a storied history as the Bears, it's unacceptable. Now, if you're watching this far, you'd be saying to yourself, man, he's been really negative on Ryan Poles. Yes, I have. I'll admit that. To his credit, though, Poles has made some good moves. He traded for DJ Moore, which in turn brought us Caleb Williams. He brought in Montez Sweat, drafted guys like I said, Kyler Gord, Quan Brisker, and Darnell Wright. But his tenure has also been marred by indecision at the head coaching position, and moreover, an overestimation of his own ability to evaluate talent. The promise of taking the North feels more distant than ever. There are a lot of things I didn't talk about today that I could have. The Matt Eberflus saga deserves a video of its own, and one day I'll get to that, so I can devote as much time as it deserves. The trade for Chase Claypool has been beat to death at this point. You already all know about it and what happened. It's just another blemish on Ryan Poles' judge of character, or his ability to think he can fix everyone's issues, a la Nate Davis. The biggest problem for Ryan Poles may just be Ryan Poles. What do I mean by that? Somewhere along the line, Ryan Poles stopped thinking with his head and started thinking with his personal feelings. It seems as if he almost thought he was the smartest man in the room, even if it wasn't the case. There is hope for Ryan Poles. He could very well take the lessons from this season, turn things around, build an excellent football club. But I just don't know, and I can't go into this offseason with any reservations in that fact if I was the Bears front office. At this moment in time, I can't condone giving Ryan Poles another chance. The Bears need sweeping organizational changes to step into the modern era of football. And like everything else, that starts at the top. I want to thank you all for watching. Now that you've heard my take, I want to hear yours. Do you think Ryan Poles deserves another offseason to turn things around? Drop your thoughts in the comments, leave a like on the video, and don't forget to subscribe for more Bears coverage. And until next time, bear down.